the Davenport Community School District Board of Directors order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Director Gordon, would you please read the mission and vision statements?
Mission statement. The Davenport Community School District is dedicated to growing excellence in academics, the arts, and athletics for every child by ensuring the highest quality education in an environment shaped by our diverse community, preparing our students to be lifelong learners and productive citizens. Vision statement. Education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you. Director Posham, would you please read our guiding principles?
Opportunity. We provide abundant opportunities to empower students to reach their full potential academically, creatively, and socially. Collaboration. We foster an environment that allows students, families, and community stakeholders to come together for the betterment of our students' education and future. Transparency. We share relevant and important information with our students, families, and the community to maintain open and productive communication.
Thank you. Superintendent Schneckloff, would you please read the goals?
Goal number 3, all students experience a safe learning environment.
Thank you. We'll move on to recognitions.
Those this time.
Any presentations?
No presentations at this time.
No student board reports. Are there any board reports? We just had graduation. Nothing? Director Hayes.
Well, I didn't have any, but basically we just had graduation and the State of the City address today by the mayor, which was interesting. That's it.
Thank you. Director Beck.
I would like to thank Director Gordon for the time she served on the board. We appreciate it, and your voice will be missed.
Thank you. Any other board reports? I have a couple. I did attend the JROTC end of the year banquet. It was a great turnout for that. I was also at Fillmore's Field Day, and it was extremely hot outside. And then Director Potts and myself were at Garfield for the, I'm trying to remember the name of that. For the track. Yeah, for the awards program, and then the running program they had there was a good time. And then obviously we had high school graduation. My senior graduated, so all right. And then Director Hayes said the superintendent, myself, and Director Hayes were at the State of the City lunch today. So if there are no other board reports, I'll move on to communications. Open forum. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak, please fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The form is available in hard copy for in-person attendees or on the school board page of the district's webpage for those who want to participate virtually. Virtual participants must email the request to Brenda T. at tbrin@davenportschools.org by 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it was not published as an agenda item. Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issue that is not on the agenda. The president may set the amount of time allowed for individuals to speak. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. You will be asked to state your name and home address prior to making remarks. To participate virtually, call 1-312-626-6799 and enter meeting ID 99597272826 and passcode 795942. We have one in-person open forum request. Brenda, do we have any? No? All right. Up first, we have Scott Tunnicliffe.
Okay, how's that? Better? Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, board members. Appreciate the opportunity here. My name is Scott Tunnicliffe. I live at 718 Holmes Street in, you should pardon the expression, Bettendorf, Iowa. I speak today about the prospective demolition for Washington and Monroe Elementary Schools. I know these are difficult decisions for board members. I know they're emotional for people who went there, who had lived there, but I have no such emotional or financial ties to either one of these schools. I did not go there, nor did I go to Johnson or Grant or Lincoln or JB, so I don't have any skin in the game with respect to that. My pedigree was strictly within other schools in Davenport. That said, I do have a commitment to preservation with an eye toward essential reuse or possible reuse of buildings, particularly if they are structurally sound and contain elements for adaptive reuse, and that's what I rise for today. The reuse or resale or redevelopment or repurposing of Monroe and of Washington Elementary so as to enhance these parts of Davenport, providing for such elements potentially as affordable housing, for which there is a great need, or senior living, for which there is a great need also in these sections of the city, or things such as child care centers, or art and event centers, which I understand will be a part of the proposal, and all such other utilities and existing facilities that could serve to stabilize the district, stabilize that element in which they're located now, inspire and encourage reinvestment in that parts of Davenport, the neighborhoods that are there, and enhancing ultimately, if they are sold, the property tax base for the community. The vision statement speaks to a key element, and it says about what if. I would ask the school board as they make their decisions to address these for both the elementary schools. What if they were resold or redeveloped or attracted meaningful investment? There are examples throughout the country of such things that have been done to the benefit of the community and the renewed life of the district. So my encouraging today, as you have a tough decision to make, please give thought to the idea of issuing a request for proposal, an RFP, to development interests that might look out for some of these prospective reuses. It is not as if either of these elements, these schools, are decaying or decrepit in any way. They are both substantial parts of the community and likely could remain so. But with the issuance of an RFP, you could give them new life and actually embrace the future through preservation and give new life to our district by having these unique elements featured in it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tunnicliffe. We will move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move the board accept the consent agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Potts. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Superintendent report.
None at this time.
Committee reports. Your data wall ad hoc
None
committee.
at this time. Get closer.
Finance committee. Nothing new for legislative advocacy. LZAC. Long range facilities planning. I was there. We just kind of, or you want to hit on that about the banners and stuff that'll be up at the.
Sure. So one of the next steps that we're doing is we are promoting promoting our plan and our growth that we're moving forward with. For example, we have purchased banners that are, I believe, about 8 feet long, 4 feet tall, for the expansion that's happening at Davenport West High School. We've put one in Walcott, Bluegrass, Buffalo, and at the corner of Davenport West. And it's got a picture of what's to come. And it also has growing excellence, kind of has our motto on there, just to get people excited about what's coming. Plus, when tractors and staging start showing up, people who are not dialed in, or maybe not have a child in the school, can see exactly what's coming. We also have a phased out communication plan for the projects that are being proposed. For example, when if everything does move forward and we begin to expand at Sudlow West and North, then there'll be the same exact thing on that site. So the banners that we have now are coming soon at each one of those sites.
Thank you. Policy committee.
We met last week. We have gone through all our current policies now. The only thing new that would be coming is things that would address legislative action this past few months.
Thank you. We'll move on to items requiring action. May I have a motion on subject 10.01, Mississippi Bend AEA and Induction Support Agreement?
Mr. President,
Director Hayes.
I move the board approve the Mississippi Bend Area Education Agency Induction Support Agreement for fiscal year 23-24, year 2 for $42,000 funded through TLCS budget.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Director Beck.
I was just wondering, I know we entered into the program in the 2022-23 school year, and you guys gave us a little bit of a table demonstrating some success with this. So I was just curious. I noticed the first year teachers, I guess I'm trying to interpret far, close, and meeting on that table. So if you could give us a little bit of explanation, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So it is a 2-year program and can be a 3-year program, but we currently have committed to supporting our new teachers for 2 years through the induction program. I think what the table is demonstrating is that the teachers who complete the program through the 2-year program are able to meet in these instructional core areas listed above. And so 1 year, I would like to say our teachers make tremendous growth, but it doesn't show here in this data. It is important for teachers to remain with this induction coach for the total of 2 years. And this year we are employing 7 induction coaches, moving up from 5 to 7. We believe that it's really important and that it is exactly what our new teachers need.
I have one follow-up question. So the teachers that are the induction coaches, are we taking more teachers out of the classroom to fill this, or are these induction coaches coming from the MBAEA, or how is that?
So these are the positions were listed, and currently we have hired from our own faculty. So yes, we have hired our own teachers for this position.
Okay, I guess I always have mixed feelings about these kinds of things. I know it's super important to retain new teachers, but I also get nervous when we see teachers leaving, seasoned teachers leaving the classroom full time to do something like this. So, not a complaint, just
Yeah,
mixed feelings.
I share your concern there. We want to make sure we have high quality teachers in the classroom as well. What these induction coaches will do in this very first year is focus on classroom culture and climate, give teachers some skills for how to manage classrooms, how to create routines and schedules, and just to be able to create this environment for learning. And I recognize exactly your concern. Yeah.
Director Potts.
How many first, second year teachers do we have? Brown, estimate.
We will, in new teacher induction week, we will welcome our brand new teachers in the first 2 days, and then new to Davenport teachers will join them for 3 additional days. So our new teachers are here for 5 days prior to the start of the school year. I believe we have 50 or 60. I wasn't here last year for that. There's a total of 100 teachers. About half are brand new teachers.
And there's 7 of these induction teachers?
There are 7, that's right. There is a maximum number on their caseload. I want to say it's around 12 to 15, something like that. And of course, we are also aware that we have a larger number of new teachers in a couple of our buildings. We'll make sure that they have adequate support from these induction coaches in some of our more needy buildings. Where
I'm
we have
assuming their
teachers.
role is they're not evaluative.
They are not evaluative. That is correct.
So what differentiates what they are doing from what the principal is supposed to be doing?
So they'll spend more time side by side with the teacher, doing side by side coaching, helping them learn their curriculum so that they are able to provide quality instruction. The principal will do that too, but with more of an evaluative eye. This coach is really supporting this teacher in their teacher practice in a way that is not evaluative. So it's a partner, and it's an advocate and a friend, someone who is going to support the quality work that a teacher will do. Not unlike a principal, but they have opportunity to spend more time.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 10.02, annual renewal for Infinite Campus?
Mr. President,
Director Poston.
move the board approve the 2023-2024 contract renewal with Computer Information Concepts for Infinite Campus in the amount of $167,478.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 10.03, 95% group curriculum renewal.
Mr. President,
Director Beck.
I move the board approve the annual renewal of 95% group core in the total amount of $80,487.50 for the 2023 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries, ayes have it. May I have a motion for subject 10.04, Iowa Jobs for America's Graduates Contract Renewal?
Mr. President,
Director Poston.
move the board approve the annual renewal of IJAG in the amount of $175,000 for the 2024-25 school year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this one? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 10.05, Champs Professional Learning?
Mr. President,
Director Beck.
I move the board approve the contract with Safe and Civil Schools for Champs Professional Learning for $64,500 plus travel for fiscal year 23-24.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Gordon.
Can someone explain how this is different from other PBIS things we've used in the past, like Boys Town and I'm forgetting the name of it. There were some other ones. Like, what makes this different? Why are we bringing in another team of people to do similar things that we've done before?
So CHAMPS is different in that it is a framework for how to set up your classroom management system specifically. We have done some work around this before through PBIS with some classroom matrices, but CHAMPS just makes it more tangible and more digestible for teachers and really focuses on the high leverage practices that should be in place for classroom management. This gives us an opportunity to really set that baseline of expectation around what classroom management should look like in every classroom across our district.
So is this kind of like, because it says in here that this is recommended from the Iowa Department of Ed as a result of the visits to the extended comprehensive buildings that we need to establish these expectations. So is this because they're coming in and they're seeing more behaviors than they've seen in the past and it looks like ill-managed classrooms? Because I know that our teachers that have been in the district a long time are well-versed in how to run a classroom. But a lot of times, especially since post-COVID, when kids got used to different routines at home, coming back from that has been a struggle, not just for our district, but across the nation. So I just am curious if this is in response to that or if this is some specific thing where we're seeing that Davenport teachers are unable to maintain classroom expectations.
So I will take a run at that one. So that's a great question. And one of the first things when Dr. Buryanik was here, her background, she was an associate superintendent in Sioux City, and they had very similar issues. And there's very similar issues when you're implementing any type of behavior management system. It's easy to implement the posters on the walls and the token economies and things like that, but when it comes time to the classroom management, these are how those rules and procedures flow inside of there. That's where we were as a district. And so in conversations with Dr. Buryanik, we had created our own matrices, our own teacher best practices. And to your point, the teachers in our district who are operating many of these things are experiencing well-run classrooms. And the things that are inside of champs and the things that we would talk about are not, they're not new strategies. You know, to have procedures for coming into the room, lining up, just all of those things you would see in a well-run classroom. It's a framework for having those conversations. And so Dr. Buryanik said, well, in our schools that are extended comprehensive, they noticed that a comprehensive system for behaviors inside the classroom was necessary. And in order to accomplish that, here is one that we endorse, but you can choose a different path if you like. So we as a district investigated and they allowed us to. You can choose something different. When we dug into champs, it was everything we were trying to systematize, except now we'll have coaches to help assist us with it. They'll, and at this price point, to have people go on a journey with us that we are all in on anyway, because some of the practices that are here are best practices. They're not cutting edge. They're nothing like that, but they are best practices. And so that's why we were comfortable moving this forward. Very rarely does that happen to where someone recommends something for you and it actually fits the exact next step that you were going to do. And so we are very excited about this, and I believe the team that you have has vetted this correct too. So we didn't just adopt this because someone told us to. We actually ran it through our SEBH team, and so that's why we're bringing this forward today. And the reason why it's moving quicker than we normally would is these high quality agencies like this, they book up really fast, and so for us to, and they will not save a date until they have a contract. That's why we went with a Friday report and an action item here. So we believe that this is an excellent next step for us. It's not just because someone told us to. We did some cascading through our SEBH team, and so that's why it's here.
Thank you for that explanation. So just so I understand, the champs is the framework, and the people that we're wanting to pay to bring in and do professional development on it are already trained in that, or that's their expertise, and that's why we're bringing them in rather than using people from our district whose classroom management skills are already top tier. So then that makes me wonder, so then is this going to be then a district-wide framework that everyone is expected to adhere to? And what does that look like for those classrooms that are already well managed? How do we look at those teachers and be like, you're doing awesome, but I want you to do it different awesome? You know what I mean?
No, that's a very fair question. And those teachers that are doing things awesome, almost always we don't ask them to change what your awesome is into this other thing that's awesome. The other component is you've heard, it's hard for us to pull teachers out of the classroom, send other teachers to those teachers who are teaching in the classroom. And so our structure that we have with TLCS and coaches is to bring that structure in, allow our coaching and our system to be onboarded and move forward. We do utilize our teachers that are doing really well. We do utilize observations. A lot of times, you know, as a building administrator, I would spend just as much time in a high effective classroom as I would as a teacher that needed assistance, because that's really important for you to be grounded in what is working in a classroom. And so I would say that it's important for us not to overwhelm our staff that are working. If those staff do become induction innovators, we do remove those staff members out of the classroom. So it's important for us to continue to use our TLCS structure that we have. And I would say that it's been our practice that if somebody is rocking their classroom, we let them rock their classroom. And if everyone can learn something new, so maybe that teacher that is performing at a high level might like these strategies as well and utilize these strategies as well. But what we are working on are particular those places in need. One of the things in education is you can't move forward until the classroom is ready to learn. So that safe learning environment, that The structures are absolutely necessary. So what does it look like to come into the classroom? What does it look like to have seats in the classroom? Courtney, would you like to add anything to that? Hopefully that answers your question. But those are all great concerns that we don't, anytime we're coming into these, and anybody who's been in the district in the last 5 years has seen Boys Town come, has seen these different organizations come. We feel that this is very grounded in PBIS and where we were going with PBIS. PBIS has 3 tiers: tier 1, tier 2, and 3. Tier 1 is that core tier that you see everywhere. Tier 2 is the what do we do when students aren't understanding. Tier 3 is in the classroom. And that's where we were heading with our 5-year, we're on, I think, year 7 implementation now. And so we're feel very confident that this is the direction we're going to go.
Director Poston.
When I look at this and you look at the 7 bullet points, as you read down through that, to me, I'm reading PBIS. And again, I appreciate your explanation of what would add to this, but I think we've added enough to our teachers' workload through PBIS, and I'm having a hard time understanding how this is going to add to it. I think if we follow what has been laid out with PBIS, that should be sufficient.
Director Beck.
I share some of the same concerns. I guess my question would be, and I apologize if it was mentioned before, but I couldn't quite hear everything. What grades is this targeted to? And I guess looking through this, we've got, a couple of days for each presentation. Some are repeated. Somebody comes in and gives a presentation and then they're gone. I guess I'm trying to figure out how this program works. Again, that's different from something we already do.
So I think first to clarify, this is a part of us building our system for social emotional behavioral health. This is aligned with PBIS. This is the next step in really bolstering our universal core. So the plan is that we are extended all of our comprehensive buildings, so not just extended comprehensive, but our newly identified comprehensive buildings will receive this 2-day training, 1 day in August. Some are doing 1 day in August, 1 day in September. Some are doing 1 day in September, 1 day in October, just depending on how the professional learning calendar is falling. Prior to all teachers in those buildings receiving training, all administrators of those buildings and all coaches of those buildings will receive the training ahead of time in early August, because that is CHAMPS how they roll it out, is they want their leaders and coaches to be able to support on day 1 of teachers having the skills and the knowledge. So that's happening. Also, there will be additional coaching check-in points throughout the year to support the work.
Okay, so these same people are the ones who will be checking in, is that correct?
I can't say specifically it's the same people, but
The
yeah.
consultants.
Yes.
Basically. Okay.
Yes.
And
And I'm sorry, it's K-12 is what we're targeting with.
okay,
CHAMPS.
that
Yep.
was my other question. So from what I understand, CHAMPS is sort of a general term for a PBIS style approach to classroom management, but what we're paying for is a specific company to teach that or lead professional development in that respect, right? Is that
So classroom management is a piece of a universal component of PBIS. And so CHAMPS has developed a framework that's research-based for that piece of the classroom management piece. So that's what we're paying experts to come in and help train our teachers around those best practices around classroom management. So when I shut the door and I'm the teacher in charge, what are the things I need in place to make sure I'm being effective?
okay? So basically, there are other groups that deliver CHAMPS instruction, but this is the one that the DOE recommended, as
Yeah.
Superintendent Schneckloth was saying, and the one that we, after looking at a couple, decided on. Okay.
Director Klein-Jerome?
As was mentioned, you have some rock star people for classroom management. So they sit through the first one and they go, nope, this isn't for me. What I'm doing is working and I want to opt out. Are we giving them that opportunity? Or are we going to force them to sit through in-service training that really they do not need?
We haven't discussed an opt-out. My hope would be, as Superintendent Schneckloff says, that we're all learners. And so if I'm sitting in this training, it's either validating what I'm doing is working, because I'm assuming I make the assumption if they're a rock star teacher, they're probably doing some of these practices, right? So that would be validating to me as a teacher. And maybe I could learn something, a little something to tweak what I'm doing. So yeah, we have not discussed an opt-out. Again, trying to create that baseline of expectation for classroom management.
What are you taking off their plates? Because this is just one more thing piled up, and this was kind of mentioned. What are you taking away? Because they can't keep doing more and more and more.
So that's why we were intentional in who we started with. This wasn't everybody's going to get this next year. It was our extended comprehensives and our comprehensive buildings, because this is directly aligned to the work that the DE has recommended for them. So this is just a part of their plan and what will be a priority for them next year. High schools were identified as an opportunity of a place to start deploying this, doing to potential within the professional learning calendar for them.
Okay, but you haven't said you're taking anything off their plate. It's just one more thing we're expecting them to do. And I think that's creating an issue out in the buildings with staff, is like they can't do one more thing. So I think we need to think about what is it we're going to take away that they aren't going to be responsible for. I also don't want to see this become the clipboard checkoff thing where you're coming in my room and going, oh, check, check, check that you did that. That is also killing morale.
Director Hayes?
You have the various costs per day plus travel. Are all of these individuals coming from the same area at different times, or how are we getting them there? Getting them here, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's my understanding they're coming from different places. So that's why, and they'll be taking flights and depending all of that. So that's why we don't have exact cost right now for travel.
Okay.
Director Poston?
Do you have any idea how many schools in Iowa have worked with this company or adopted their program?
I'm only familiar with the district that superintendent shared.
Sioux City.
That's the only one.
That's the only one we're aware of. Could do some more digging if you like.
Director Beck?
To Director Klein-Jerome's point, I guess I'm trying to make sense. This is stuff that we're doing anyway. This is just somebody, a specific person or group that is going to help us make it consistent across classrooms. Is that right? So like, even if we didn't hire this group, this professional development would still be happening for the teachers in these schools.
Correct. We have been working on our classroom practices through self-made matrices for the last couple years. But that's just been too big, right? So partnering with this company, focusing on a framework around 5 core practices makes it just more tangible and digestible, and being able to implement it.
Okay, so we're not necessarily adding an extra thing that teachers have to do. It's something they'd be doing anyway.
It has been a priority, universal for PBIS, and that fits right into this. And I know as we're looking at professional learning time for next year, my department and curriculum and learning results have been negotiating, right? Because we know it all can't happen and all can't happen at once. So if I'm a comprehensive building, what has to come first and what needs to come off? We are having those conversations.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Poston?
Which are our extended comprehensive buildings? Which buildings are those?
Extended comprehensive are Smart and Madison. In Mid-City.
other discussion? Director Gordon.
So did the Department of Ed only visit those three buildings? And their recommendation was based on those three buildings and not the district as a whole? Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Oh,
Yes, they only visited our 3 extended comprehensive buildings.
any other discussion? Oh, Director Beck.
Will we be able to get a report on basically some evidence, some data showing us what the outcome of having this group do this is as opposed to internal people? Is there any way to do that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be monitoring our own data to see how our system's responding to the implementation of this.
Okay, I guess I would ask that maybe we get a follow-up, at the end of the year or something like that.
Okay. Yep.
Any other discussion? Director Poston.
I would suggest that what would be more effective is that we would have a Bob Schneid in every building would be more successful.
Any other discussion? Director Kleindro.
Being on a comprehensive plan is, or identification is because of test scores, correct? Not behavior issues.
It's a variety of factors in their equation to identify them.
So when they went into those buildings, there is one of those three buildings that I find hard to believe that behavior's the issue. I believe it's a test score. So we're going to make them go through this behavior issue.
I will say when we made the decision to look at this broader than just our comprehensive buildings, we did review our behavior data, and there are a lot of referrals coming from classrooms. And so we did use some data to guide our decision of, this is something we want to deploy in our system to, again, establish that baseline of learning.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I'm gonna call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right, I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Let's see. Director Beck.
Aye. Yes. Sorry.
Thank you. Director Hayes.
No.
Director Klein-Jerome.
No.
Director Poston.
No.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Gordon.
No.
My vote is yes. Motion 1, 2, 3 fails. All right. May I have a motion on subject 10.06, Hayes Office Roof Repair?
Mr. President,
Director Beck.
I move the board approve the Hayes Office roof repair to the lowest responsive bidder, Economy Roofing, in the amount of $120,160.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, motion carries. May I have a motion on subject 10.07, District Trash Removal and Recycling?
Mr. President,
Director Klein Jerome.
I move the board approve the 3-year contract renewal with Republic Services for trash removal and recycling in the amount of $76,123.84 annually, which begins on July 1st, 2023.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this one? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Hang on one second. All right, so the next subject is 10.08, the Graduation Spirit Award. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call on each board member and you tell me which school, and then we'll tally them up and figure out from there. Director Beck. Yep.
Sorry, I forgot to refresh my memory before I got here, but I think, if I remember correctly, I think I remember making a note that it's Central was the loudest.
Thank you. Director Hayes.
I believe it was Central with the point of you can almost feel the floor rumbling when they were cheering, and I think they did.
Thank you. Director Klein Jerome.
Central.
Director Poston.
Central.
Director Potts.
John gave me $20, so I'm going to vote for Central.
Scratch that from the record. Director Gordon.
Central.
Okay. I'm going to go with North, but obviously. So now I need a motion on this. I believe you worked at Central, you were a feeder to Central, so I see how it rolls.
But I graduated from West, so. I move that Central High School be awarded the Spirit Award for the 2023 graduation ceremony.
Is there a second?
Second.
Multiple seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Central gets it, and they didn't bring anybody here to accept it. Sad.
They didn't know they were going to win. Nobody knew.
Yeah, they should have had someone from each school. Subject 10.09, policies for board approval.
Mr. President,
Director Klein Jerome.
I move that the board approve the following policies: 103.05, 104.01, 203.06, 203.13, 302.02, 305.03, 305.04, 305.23, 307.02, 402.12, 402.14, 504.04, 601.03, 601.04, and 602.18.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Motion carries. All right. Before we move on to discussion items, I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break. All right, we're back. Discussion items. Up first will be subject 11.01, Bluegrass Parking Lot Project. I'll turn it over to Superintendent.
Uh, Davenport Schools had an evaluation done by civil engineers of all the parking lots. They provided a report on the general condition and recommendation for repairs. Bluegrass was evaluated and determined it needed repaired. Their system that they used was a 1 through 5, 1 being poor and needing repair, and 5 being great. Most of Bluegrass's parking lot surface area is rated a 1 or a 2 and in poor condition, and it needs repaired.
Director Kleindrum.
Is this the only parking lot of all of our schools that is in the 1-2 category?
No.
So why are we not doing multiple?
I would say it would just be the cost. We have allotted $145,000 for parking repairs yearly, and there's only so much money allotted. The report stated, for example, that we have this paved area in the amount of 24 miles if it was a road, and it's just a lot of area to cover.
Any other questions? I have a couple for you.
Sure.
I noticed it's asphalt
Yes.
and not concrete. And I realize concrete's more money, but concrete lasts like 30 years. Asphalt lasts 5 years, especially when it gets hot and gets drove over and all that stuff. So I'm just curious why we would do that. I would assume that asphalt, I mean, you drive anywhere in the city that they put asphalt down, they're doing it about every 5 years. So while it's cheap up front, it costs more money in the long run.
I guess I would say it was. I think it's determined that asphalt lasts about 20 years, give or take. In this report, they said that it's based on a 35-year life cycle. So I mean that might be a bit of a stretch, but that's what the engineer group determined our life cycle would be.
Okay. I'm from Missouri because they're going to have to show me on that one. 'Cause
Okay.
I've never heard that. Asphalt don't last that long. My other question is, I'm assuming when that gets done, then they'll restripe the parking lot so people know the right direction to go because people do not pay attention to how you park and they drive the wrong way all the time. It's so sad to see adults when you go to drop kids off at school going the wrong way all the time. It's especially at North. It's terrible. I don't know why those arrows don't, but I'm assuming that would all come with it too.
Yes, that'd be correct.
Any other questions? Any other information this will be on for the next regular board meeting? Is that, or it's got to go out for bid, or?
It's on we have a general paving contractor where we do, we get a request for quote for every 3 years, and then they do a base bid for us for a 3-year contract. So it's already, it's not necessary to go out for bid.
Okay. Does anyone need any other information before this comes at the next regular meeting? Perfect. Next subject for discussion is 11.02 English Learner Program Newcomer Curriculum Adoption. Superintendent?
Jen Van Fleet she works with our ESL teachers and who serve our students who are learning English. And I just want to mention too that the next 3 items on the agenda were a part of TJ's Friday report that came out on May 19 of curriculum purchases using ESSER funds.
So just a quick overview, we've had a large increase in our enrollment of not just our ELs, our English learners, but our English learners who are new to the United States and coming in with no English to start off with us. So what happens with that is right now, they come into our classrooms and it's a longer struggle for them to get off and running. And so what we've looked at through a curriculum adoption process with all of our ESL teachers is there a curriculum out there that our ESL teachers could roll with these students before they and as they are acclimating into our gen ed classroom to help them with the smooth transitions, their families with a smooth transition, their involvement with their peers smooth transition. And so this is where we've landed. And so this would be a 6-year adoption for K-12 for all the things that they would need with a soft rollout for our teachers as far as developing that implementation plan and what the professional development looks like. Our team of teachers has not gotten to the planning phase on what that looks like, but all of our teachers are involved on that. We wanted to wait and see what questions came out of here and if we're approved before getting into the nitty-gritty on that.
Director Kleindrum.
So our current ESL program curriculum doesn't fit this need?
No, and the current resources we have in the district for English learners are really outdated. They're 13, 15 years old. And they're for students who are more geared, that are more progressing in their English language. They're not as friendly for those kids who are brand new to English and who need that additional cultural wraparound because they're brand new to United States classrooms. They're brand new to Iowa. They're brand new to the Quad Cities. And this curriculum helps to wrap that in there too.
But we have used the old curriculum to try to do this, but we've just had to
Right. And
invent more.
yes, and with our increased enrollment, we've had more and more schools reaching out and say, hey, we just had this new awesome family enroll and we're not sure how to best serve them. How can we help them? What resources do we have? So with the uptick of that question, we rolled up our sleeves and did some research on what might we offer for our students in our schools.
Thank you.
Director Poston.
How many students are we talking roughly?
So currently in the district, this is count was a couple months old as we start off our research, we were at 60 newcomers. And those are students, again, very little, if any, English and brand new to the United States. Our total EL program is hovering around 500 students right now. So this is a subset of all of our English learners. And so this helps that pocket acclimate swiftly into those progressing levels where we can really help them very easily in the gen ed classroom and with the gen ed curriculum. It's just kind of a booster shot for them, if another way to think about it.
Director Beck.
Do we work on sort of an immersion basis with our newcomers? Is it they're pulled out for this type of instruction, or is this something that's kind of side by side along with them, or a little of both? How does that work?
Right now, it's a little bit of both. We don't have a model that would pull them out. However, we have been approved to start exploring a newcomer program for elementary, which is really where we want to hit that strong. And so we're hoping a year from now and throughout that year to bring you updates of that development. And that would be a site where we could welcome them, get them going. And at the same time, we have ELs with different needs in all of our buildings. So we both want to equip that program, what that would look like with what they need, and all of our buildings for wherever our ELs land.
Okay, yeah, I guess I just don't want to see too much of that pull out because then they're missing that core and that opportunity for, I mean, it's culture shock, but it's that immersion really does help, especially at those early ages.
So what we want to do is speed up that process of that immersion for them so that they're not missing core as much as possible because they are gen ed students first, they're all of our students first, and they happen to be English learners.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? I have a quick question. Per the previous discussion about something else about implementing something, how much more is this going to add to teachers' plates? Obviously, there's something there, it's outdated, but this is going to be more stuff for them to have to do.
Sure. So what we've looked at potentially, again, we haven't mapped it out yet, but we have teachers who are very, very passionate about supporting newcomers and who are already volunteering. I would be willing to be a soft rollout volunteer for this. I would be willing to come in for time in the summer, and we have funding allocated for that, supplemental Title III funding where we can pay our ESL teachers to come in. With this comes training right from the company, so we can work as even like a train the trainer model and then figure out how that best fits in for wherever this curriculum would land eventually with all of our teachers. So we have people who are very excited to get going on this and willing to even invest some summer learning time with that. So as we're not crowding the school calendar year, we also have a quarterly English Learner Academy for all of our ESL teachers. So this would be embedded within that as well. And that's their protected pull-out time for professional development for ESL teachers.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Thank you. We will move on to subject 11.03, ELA preschool curriculum purchase. Who do you want me to roll this one?
So Jen Saxon is going to step up to the podium to answer your questions. Jen is our elementary ELA curriculum specialist and has been working with preschool on this adoption.
So yeah, I'm the pre-K4 ELA curriculum specialist. So I work with preschool, but then also our elementary as well. So part of our curriculum adoption process, we were looking at resources that we have available, number one, for all of ELA, and preschool is one of those unique areas where they have different special needs. We found that one thing that we've noticed through the pandemic is our preschool students even still are coming to us with lower oral language abilities, and that's something that then we definitely want to make sure that we're targeting for those students. And this particular program is one that our preschool teachers have actually been asking for years. It's kind of one of those that's considered the gold standard, but we also wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence to go through and examine what was available and out there. This particular program is one that is directly aligned to their teaching strategies gold assessment, and so it provides them with what to do with the assessment results that they've already been using, collecting, and have had for the past several years. And so this is one that will embed not only their literacy skills, but also then social emotional skills as well. They've had pieces and parts of this, and this is something where this will take place of then their pieces that have been put together over the years. So they have World of Wonders for their literacy skills, and then they also have 95% PA chip kit, which is not necessarily intended for whole group instruction, but that's what we've used to kind of help supplement some of the pieces and parts that they've needed. And so this will be one of those programs that will allow for more of an all-encompassing piece rather than having multiple different programs that they have to pull together.
Director Beck.
So this is a play-based curriculum. Can you explain a little bit
So
how that works?
they actually do a lot with their curriculum when they're embedding it into like centers and things like that. So play centers, there's a lot of it that's fully embedded into that, as well as then it's thematic based. So they'll have like a study on balls, for example. And so then they will have different stations and centers where the teacher interacts. It provides them then with the language that they can use with the students, different activities that they can do to help build their skills, but in that play setting environment versus just a kind of, I guess, more with like their World of Wonders. It's more like we sit and we read the story and we learn about it, but that's very different from how this program is structured. They have stories and they have online components that go along with it, but then interacts with all of their different stations and things that they already do as well.
So as a follow-up, I mean, I'm all for play-based learning. I think it's way better, especially at this age group, than sitting down and trying to do passive listening and that kind of thing. But you mentioned online stuff. I hope we're not giving 4-year-olds.
No. When I say online, they do have like some videos and things like that that can help to support the learning. Most of the online support, though, is for the teacher
Okay.
themselves to be able to do their different. So what it does is it directly aligns to their teaching strategies goals. So it will have them be able to do their assessments, and then it will pull out and say these kids need these types of lessons, these skills, and it actually ranks them by growth. So like where they're at. And what level they would need within this whole band of what they're learning. So it ties then to that directly as well.
Okay.
So yes, no, it's not. It's not online learning for 4-year-olds.
And you said that this basically will replace the piece together curriculum. So we're not
piecing and not adding on. We're trying to streamline for them and make it a lot more simple for them to be able to do their job.
And teachers have asked for this specifically?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Poston.
In the attachment, it talks about a 6-year license for 5 pilot teachers and then a 5-year license for 21 teachers. Say you get into this program and you feel that it's not a fit. Can you opt out of it, or are you stuck with the 6 years and the 5 years?
That's a really good question. And I do think with everything so when we're doing that 5 teachers to start out with, that is kind of our soft rollout to begin with. But then that is something that as then we're working through it, that we can kind of look at what's happening, what's going on, and how we would need to tweak or adjust. That's something though too, I think that I would need to verify. I don't want to say yes or no one way or the other.
Was there a cost savings on going out that far?
Yeah. So one of the things that we were able to, if we were able to do the full purchase all together, so obviously license wise for the teachers, the teacher license annually is like $1,400 a year. So when you start cutting down on the number of years you're doing it, the cost goes up dramatically. If you do choose to go with it for 6 years, then your cost changes a lot. The other thing that the company did was if we were willing to do this full program purchase as one rather than 2 separate ones or multiple different ones, they gave us free shipping, which was a total of $14,000, as well as then at least 1 free PD day. We're also working on trying to get some more PD days out of them as well, which they're about $3,000 a piece, so 3 to 4. So those are savings that we got just by working with them to say, if we do this and we do it as a soft rollout, we can save some money on our end.
Yeah.
May I just add something too? The preschool teachers in our curriculum department did due diligence in looking at a number of curriculum resources, but this creative curriculum is the gold standard. And we know that this school board values preschool, and we believe this is a foundational move for us in creating strong preschool programs. So we hope you'll support this move.
Any other discussion or questions? I'm going to ask the same one I asked before because that was a recurring thing. How much more will this dump on people's plates to do?
So it will not actually dump more. It will be able to streamline, since we're taking what's happening in multiple programs and putting it into one single program. That will actually make it easier for our teachers to be able to do their planning. And the fact that right now they're trying to find how to address what they're getting out of their teaching strategies goal assessment by piecing together things that they're finding. And this will allow them to actually be able to have something that's kind of giving them the guidance of what to do and how to do it. So that will make their job actually a lot easier as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
I work in the construction industry. It ain't the same as when I started 20 years ago. I get it.
Yes.
Things change and upgrades on things.
Yeah.
All right, we will move on to subject 11.04, elementary ELA curriculum field test, amplify core knowledge language arts.
And this just also happens to be in Jen's area of expertise, so she's going to stay at the podium to answer your questions here as well.
All right, so this is part of our, part of our really pre-K 12 curriculum adoption process. And currently we have different resources that we're utilizing for teaching. So we have Wonders K4, and then 5th and 6th grade have Unbound, exponentiary learning. And so we've got all these different pieces. Then we found a need where we weren't addressing our phonics and our phonological awareness skills. So we added in then 95% core, which was just another program that had to play with all the rest of the things. And this is something then, as we went through that curriculum adoption process, we had a lot of research and a lot of work that we had to do that was directly going through not only collecting, teacher feedback on what it is that they wanted, and really one of the big things that came out of what teachers were asking for was they wanted something that was all encompassing. They wanted to not have to piece things together. That was a big message that we got from their survey, and so that was really important to us as we went through that process. We went and we were able to go to the AEA vendor fair. So initially they started out, they had a whole winnowing of resources of, I want to say there were at least 65 different programs they looked at. They were able to narrow it down to about 5. And we had a team of 41 teachers and administrators that went to that vendor fair to be able to look at those 5 programs that were available. From there, we were able to narrow it down. That team was able to narrow it down to 3 possible ones. We did a traveling vendor fair where teachers were able to see then all of the different resources that were options for them or looking at that were part of that process. We also did some work with analyzing what ended up being then our top 2. And with that, then it was a lot that we were going back and forth with which one met our needs as far as being all encompassing, but also then was aligned to what we're learning in our letters training, which is all about science of reading, making sure that we have both our word recognitions instruction strong, but also our language comprehension being very strong as well, and how that can all be woven together. And so our early literacy team also did a deep dive into those programs as well, and kind of came up with what they felt was which program was meeting the needs in both of those areas as well. And so what ended up happening then is we got to where we were, I forgot the one thing where was the state of Iowa also came out with a list, which was just a list of what was considered to be high quality instructional materials. And so one program was on the list, the other one wasn't. So that was something that we had to kind of really wrestle with as a team as well. And so in the end, we ended with the decision to adopt Amplify K5 as our program for ELA, or at least propose that that would be something that we would want to field test for this upcoming school year. And so then we have provided then additional learning opportunities for teachers and staff. We've had the company come in and do presentation. We had a virtual overview, and we also have some learning opportunities as well that we've provided over the summer for teachers to kind of wrap their head around. This is a little bit different in the way that it's structured. We haven't been doing a lot with language comprehension instruction. That's kind of fell off to the side. And we've also heard, writing is not incorporated well with what we're doing. So we want to make sure that that's also well incorporated. And so then that's where we ended up landing on Amplify as being the best choice for meeting all of those needs that we had as a district. Yes.
Director Mack.
How is this different from the 95%?
So we actually did a direct side by side. And so the one thing that's interesting about 95% core is we really wanted it to be able to cover a specific need that we had at a specific time when we weren't up for a full adoption program. And we knew that Wonders was not meeting the need of teaching phonics phonological awareness. So as far as different, it has both sides of what we need. It's covering not only the word recognition, which is the only thing that 95% core is covering, but also then the language comprehension side as well, which is something that 95% does not touch at all. So then it's giving you both sides. We did a side-by-side lesson analysis of 95% and Amplify lesson, and it had a lot of the exact same things. You just look and see it. They do this as far as a phonological awareness warm-up. They do this here. So we did that side-by-side analysis too, and we saw that it had all of the same components that 95% core had, and it was continued on through 3rd, 4th, 5th grade for the word recognition, but incorporated into what they were learning in the knowledge strand as well.
So I guess, I mean, we just voted to adopt 95% not that long ago. And one of the things that the board made clear was that, you know, we do want to make sure that it's meeting our needs, but also that we had explored all of our options to make sure that it was doing what we needed. And it sounds like there's one big piece that was missing from that. Was this product not available then, or was it just something we weren't aware of? Or, I mean, if you don't, you may not know.
Yeah, and I don't have the full information as far as the process that went through during that time. I'm not sure if that's something that you would be able to speak to. Yeah. Okay.
I guess I just, I appreciate the fact that if something's not working for us, we are willing to revisit. But I feel like we had a lot of discussion and a lot of people telling us that 95% was going to avoid the piecemealing that had been happening. And now we're finding out that something was missing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my concern.
Right.
I appreciate that we are that we have implemented 95% group core. Did I say all the right
Yes.
pieces? It is a very well aligned science of reading program. I think what we believe this has is all of that and more. It has this whole skills strand, which would be the 95% group piece. But then it has a whole knowledge strand too, and the two interact with each other and are aligned together. And so we've asked, could we do the knowledge piece but keep 95%? And they said, sure, you could do that. But anyone who's ever done that piece, you know, different curriculums together, has missed out on the opportunity for, okay, we're learning this skill, now we're going to practice it in all the connected text that comes with the program too. So we're super excited for that. We also think that's part of the benefit of a field test. We're just implementing small. I don't know if you'd be interested to know, but Eisenhower and Fillmore, K5, Jen, correct me if I have this wrong. And then K1 at Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
And then for our 5th and 6th grade teachers who departmentalize, right? Some teach math, some teach ELA. So this won't be a heavy lift for these teachers who are implementing math next year. We're doing 5th and 6th at Buffalo and Jackson, 5th grade at Harrison, Hayes, and Madison, 6th grade at Jefferson. And this was all carefully calculated. We asked principals, go ask your teachers, please talk to your teachers who wants to participate. This is teachers stepping in to say, we want new comprehensive core curriculum. So I think we're excited about that too, that teachers see that it's one whole piece that's going to have the reading, writing, speaking, listening, language, spelling, and writing all together as a component. And so we think it's going to have 95% group and more, but of course 95% group will be 100% continuing in these buildings that aren't doing the field test next year.
And I will say that when they were looking at 95% core, that was to fill the phonics phonological gap, but we still did have Wonders that was supposed to be used for their language comprehension side. It's just extremely weak. in being able to provide that instruction. So there was that side that was already still there, and we had that license and that program that was still part of our 7 to 8 year curriculum adoption cycle. So the 95% core was on top of that already anyways. So the one thing I'm wondering about the piecemeal would just be, previously they were using like 95% chip kits to be able to instruct. They were using Haggerty. So that phonics instruction, that phonological instruction, was very piecemealed together. So that helped to simplify that piece, but still didn't pull everything all together either.
And Director Beck, if I could just add one to your memory to kind of try and flesh that out. It was about this time last year or a few years ago when we had that core 95% core resource, and we're like, hey, over COVID they fleshed out that and they made it so it wasn't so piecemeal. They recognized there were some gaps, and because we hadn't done this full adoption, we asked our board to say, hey, can we do this for a year? What Jen Saxon is talking about and Dr. Lewis, this idea of science of reading, 95% is one person that applied science to reading to their product, and so is Amplify, and so is everything else. So you are remembering correctly. We needed to extend that 1 year until we got to this point, and that's why we're doing it. So,
Director Klein-Jerome.
So the possibility that after next year in field testing, we will drop 95%, correct?
That is a possibility.
Okay.
Dr. Klein-Jerome, or Director Klein-Jerome, that one thing that is also a possibility, that we would keep components of 95% in Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention. We don't know. We're hoping to discover that in the field tests as well.
If this really focuses on early literacy, is this really then the best curriculum for 4th, 5th, 6th grade?
So it's interesting because the way that the program is designed is there's K2 is designed a certain way, and then 3-5 is designed another way. The one thing that's very unique about this program, and if you were to go into some of the research we're looking at, knowledge building curriculum, which is something that we know our students are coming in with a lack of background knowledge, lower vocabulary as well. And so what's unique about this particular program is that's one of their main focuses is a knowledge building curriculum. So they're actually studying and learning reading, but through also building knowledge in some of their science, social studies, and the arts topics as well. So what happens in K2 is they have two separate strands that are kept separate. They have a skills strand and they have a knowledge strand. And those stay separate, and they do instruction for those two. And then in 3rd grade, those are woven together. And so when they're woven together, the work that's done with the phonics and morphology and things like that is all pulled from the content and the knowledge that they're building off of. So they have vocabulary words that are pulled, but then they also do morphology work and then some deeper phonics work as well that's directly tied to the knowledge building strand. So everything gets interwoven, whereas in K2 it's actually two separate.
And then 6th grade. Right now they're elementary. In a year from now, they'll be going into middle school. This is not being adopted for them. What are we doing for?
So the proposal is to do HMH into literature for 6 through 10, which that one's not on this particular board, but perhaps then a different one. I know it was in part of the entire board memo that came out on May 19th, but that would then, 6th grade would go with what junior high is going with, because we recognize, number one, we don't want to start something new that then they would have to change again, and also that consistency when they move to the middle school model, we want to make sure they're all doing the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I'll ask the same one again. How much more is this going to put on people's plates?
So what I think will be different for our teachers is that it's going to combine what they're trying to pull together in multiple different areas. The other thing that we're noticing, and I've worked with Melissa Trumbo a little bit, is we have started to make some connections between science and social studies standards that are also being addressed that can be they can use as bodies of evidence for grades for science and social studies as well, because some of their topics at the lower level are then things that they're actually covering in science social studies. Other ones are ones that they're actually just building knowledge for when they get into 4th, 5th, 6th grade, and they're covering some more in-depth topics. So I think that because it'll be an all-encompassing, all-one resource, they won't have to pull and piece from different things. So that should then make things simplified for them. I think that then there's going to be obviously that learning curve. So initially for our, just like we had with our math field test, we will have a learning curve that comes along with that. And then the company also does initial PD, but then does consistent coaching throughout that field test to try to then help support those teachers. What we've heard from other districts that have adopted is that they start out, and this is also then what the representatives are telling us, but teachers will start out and they might feel very overwhelmed at first, and by the end of the year they love it because everything's kind of all together and their kids are learning a lot about a lot of different things.
Thank you. Is there any other information any board members would need for the next regular meeting? Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Last subject for discussion, 11.05, policies for board's first discussion. I will turn it over to Director Kleindrum.
This is just the first discussion. Are there any questions about any of these policies? Director Hayes?
For 401.11, it was the word may versus, or will. I'm wondering if will versus may would be a topic, or does that depend on what we just voted on for the induction support, whether or not the employee will go through orientation?
Well, I think May allows the district to decide what they plan to do. Right now, it is, they will do it, but will never allows them to get out of that option.
So I guess, again, with the induction support, how the new employees go through that determine whether or not.
I think the orientation, though, is different. It's those days right in the beginning
Okay.
where they go through
Okay.
versus the induction is a 2-year thing.
Okay.
I do have a question. I'm going to address this to Brenda. We took out that those last sentences, regular employees ineligible for school district group health insurance, but then the note is this is not required, but they must ensure that this is followed. So we took something out that they're saying if we adopt it, we must ensure that it's followed.
It says boards that adopt this policy.
Correct.
Adopting the last sentence.
But I think they mean this policy as a whole.
I don't think, can I ask a question? Were you saying that we can't scratch that last sentence?
That was my question. When I'm reading it over, for the second, third time, I'm like, does this mean I can't take this out? I have to adopt it as a whole and I must follow it as a whole.
I think if it's not a required policy, you can strike out a
Take
sentence.
things out.
Yeah. As far as I know, there's not a legal requirement to provide that information. So that would be my only thing. If it's not required, we don't have to do the whole thing, I don't think. But maybe
And Jamie, do you do this? If they're not eligible for the group health and plan, do you?
No, we don't. And that would put more work into trying to, then we become kind of caseworkers for trying to help people find insurance coverage outside of the district.
Yeah, as long as it's not a legal requirement, I think it's fine to leave it out.
Sorry, Director Poston.
102.05, you've taking that out completely? Is that because the cross references will pick that up then? Is that what that is?
Right, because we currently and in the past have not involved citizens in the curriculum study. Any other questions? This will come back for a second read and then adoption. Director Potts?
On 75.01, we've stricken some things in here. I'm just wondering what was the thinking behind it.
I will actually turn this over to Kevin because he brought this to us.
Essentially, this moves our limits from 25,000 to 50,000. We had a limit of up to 25,000 would be decided by administration. 25 to 50,000 would go to consent agenda, but would still have to go to the board. So we put it at the $50,000 level and allowed us to do recurring things that would still come to the board through consent agenda. We're trying to get more things up to consent agenda. So that was the between $25,000 and $50,000 language. We address how things are supposed to come to the board below that. If it's something that involves hiring personnel, we're going to bring that to the board for full action because there's people commitment to those. But trying to get the things that are recurring up into the consent agenda so we can continue to approve those that way with Friday reports on top of that.
Any other questions? Okay.
Administrative reports.
None at this time.
Board request. All right. Board request from Director Gordon. Date of request 6/12/23. Item requested, a request for information. Description of request. Please provide the reports from the Department of Ed visit in February. Why are you making this request? Other than brief mentions of the visits and 2 Friday reports, we haven't heard any information from the visit and would like to read the full findings. When would you like this? As soon as possible. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other board requests? Board reflection. We'll start with Director Gordon.
I would just like to reflect on my last evening here. It's been a pleasure serving the board and serving the district in this position, and I know we're supposed to stick to what's on the agenda. I don't have anything specific from tonight. Every discussion was helpful, but I want to thank you for welcoming me to the board, and it's been a pleasure serving alongside all of you, and keep up the good work. And this will not be the last you see of me, but in this capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Potts.
I'd just say our continuing attempts to take advantage of found money to improve our curriculum, to adopt new curriculums, because that can be an expensive budgeted item for us out of the general fund. And I think being able to use some of the ESSER money and other things to take advantage of that, because one of the things we put off the most is adopting new curriculum, because the books are so bloody expensive. And we're seizing the moment.
Thank you, Director Kleindrum.
I appreciated on the English language learner program newcomers and the ELA preschool. The first thing I heard is the teachers came to us and wanted this changed. And I think that speaks volumes for you taking the time to listen to the teachers and what their concerns were, rather than just starting the process and then going to them. They're the ones that want this change.
Thank you, Director Beck.
I think for me, the highlight is the fact that we are 7 very different people, and we all have the best interest of our students in mind, and that leads to very different opinions on things that are presented to us. And so it just always amazes me when we have 7 different people and we can disagree on things respectfully, and yet still keep the district functioning. And I also really appreciate the curriculum adoption process as it's been established, because it is a lot smoother than it used to be.
Thank you, Director Poston.
Like others have mentioned, the whole curriculum adoption process, appreciate what staff has done for that. I think it's going to be, with all the field testing and everything, getting teachers involved, I think it's going to be a huge asset, and hopefully we'll see results down the road.
Thank you, Director Hayes.
It's a ditto for me, especially with seeing how 95% has worked thus far. To see something that can enhance it, I'm looking forward to see the results of that.
Thank you, Superintendent Schneckloff.
I think about my mentor that I had when I started teaching, and the profound impact that she had on me becoming the educator that I am today. So to go take that mentoring program farther is incredibly important, because keeping our humans, keeping our people has never been more important.
Thank you. I appreciate all the new things that were brought to us tonight. As I stated earlier, education's like anything else, it's ever changing, and it's not the same as it was when I went to school, and I get that. I think some people lose sight of that sometimes, and we do have to make changes on things, again, because everything changes. There's new systems, new products out there every day, and I think at the end of the day, if we're providing the best product and educational tools for our students, that's what we need to do. And with that, Director Potts, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, meeting adjourned.